Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? How many of you are here for the opening ceremonies on Friday? Okay, then you know who I am. I don't have to introduce myself. Well, I'm going to anyway because enough people haven't. My name is Chris Edmonds, a longtime Livonia resident. I wasn't born and raised in the area, but I've lived here longer than I've lived anywhere in my life. And I love it here. It's a wonderful place, and events like this are, well, a big part of it, frankly. Some of you may know me from WNIC Radio. I've worked there for like 40 years. They're kind of fading me out. You know, they're sending all the old guys out to the pasture. I do a few weekend shifts, fill in once in a while. I was on today from noon to 4, actually. So anyway, thank you for listening to me back in the day and still doing so. This will be our last service of the weekend in front of the Moving Wall Vietnam Veterans Memorial. I think you'll all agree this weekend has been truly special for those of us who were able to participate. I came over on Friday, just civilian-wise, not in any official capacity, and I walked through the thing, and I cannot tell you what a profound feeling I had. It surprised me. I got to the focal point at the center there, and I just got a lump in my throat. I can't explain it. I'm sure there are people that I should know of that are on that wall. None of them came immediately to mind. It was my brother's generation were the ones that really were much more active in this. They stopped the draft the year I turned 19, so I didn't really have a part of it. But, man, you grew up. It was this focal point of the news, and the fact that almost 60,000 people died is absolutely stunning and striking to me, and that number is huge. And then I started thinking back today about you'd watch the news and 800 GIs died today. Something else blew up. This blew up. This one. And you're like, and it just became part of the wallpaper. And we can't let that ever happen again. It was a crazy thing. All right. Anyway, this weekend's been special for everybody here. Did any of you go to the USO shows Friday or Saturday night? I went last night. Was that awesome? It really was. Maybe we'll have something special for the mayor's hiding behind that paper. If you're here last night, you'll know why the mayor is holding that paper over his face. We'll get to that later. Anyway, to begin today's ceremony, of course, I'd like to ask the members of the Honor Guard of our own Livonia American Legion Post 32 to please post the colors. Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you for all the good things you do over at Post 32. Next, we're going to start with a little music. We have the pleasure of hearing a patriotic medley by the 5th Season, a vocal ensemble that serves as a music ministry across Metro Detroit. Sharon Smith has been the group's director and accompanist for the past 27 years. Ladies and gentlemen, the 5th Season. Not to be confused with the Four Seasons or the Fifth Dimension. I was going to say take a bow, but you're on the move. Good. Stop and take a quick bow. Just a short bow. There you go. Wow, they're thinking about it. Another hand, ladies and gentlemen, for the 5th season. Just beautiful. You know, we've had a lot of support from our veterans, obviously, to make this weekend's events happen. And right now, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to ask all the veterans who are able to please stand, and so we can wave and share our appreciation. Veterans who are here that can do so, please do. Awesome. It's kind of a hackneyed phrase, but thank you for your service. One group of veterans we'd especially like to acknowledge are the members of the Honor Guard, whom you saw a few minutes ago from American Legion Post 32 on Newburgh. They're right here in Livonia. Now, they've been here for every single ceremony, and they're dressed blues, and they have been amazing. So at this time, I'd like to ask American Legion Post 32 Chaplain Raymond Rodriguez to please come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us stand and face the flag and join together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Raymond Rodriguez, thank you very much. Our opening prayer today will be presented by Father Jim McNulty. Parishioners at St. Edith probably know him very well. He is the pastor there and since 2010, and he's been serving in Livonia for 14 years. He was ordained a Catholic priest in 2003. Father Jim, come on up.
Loving God, we give you thanks and praise for this day. We thank you for all the blessings you shower upon our United States of America. We thank you for all those who have served in our armed forces, those who served our country in the past, and those in active service today. We thank them for the part they played in giving us all the freedoms we enjoy in this country today. We especially give you thanks for all who served in the Vietnam War. Watch over them in recognition of their loyal service to our nation. Bless them with wholeness and love. Shelter them. Heal their wounds and comfort their hearts. We thank you for those who gave their lives in service of the United States of America in the Vietnam War. Worthy men and women who gave their best when called upon to serve their country. Bless them abundantly for the hardships they faced, for the sacrifices they made, for the many different contributions to America's victories over tyranny and oppression. We respect them, we thank them, we honor them, and we're proud of them. Watch over their friends and family who continue to grieve their loss. Grant them peace. Amen.
How about a hand for Father Jim? Not to be confused with Reverend Jim from Taxi. You might remember that. He is coming back later, and he's got a very special thing he wants to do a little later on in the program, so be sure you stay tuned for that. Next, it is time to introduce the man of the hour, ladies and gentlemen. Livonia Mayor Dennis Wright will come up to the stage, along with Director of Administration for the City of Livonia, Dave Varga. Boop, boop, be-doop.
Boop-boopy-doo, huh? All right. We're up here today to offer thanks. So many people pitched in to make the Moving Wall event happen and make it a total success. Let's start with our sponsors.
Our presenting sponsor is Masco. They were really great. They had a key role in presenting this event, and we thank them. Our next level is Our major sponsors, those were D&B Landscaping, and you can see what they've done out here. Nagel Paving, they took care of the path, and Roush, and they did the float that you saw over there on the side. Supporting sponsors were Alpha USA, Fason Bon, Livonia Spree, NYX Incorporated, Site One Landscaping. Our contributing sponsors were Aristio Construction, Martian McLennan Agency, and Wade Shows. And our partner sponsors were Embassy Suites by Hilton in Livonia, 4M Associates, Golf Livonia, Greg Coppola, Livonia Chamber of Commerce, OHM Advisors, and Valicet. Thank you to all of these and everyone who donated to make this event happen. Next, I'd like to also thank you. We'd also like to thank all of the participants, the performers, and the speakers in our ceremonies and shows. They've done an amazing job, and we really appreciate that.
Thanks also to our Moving Wall Committee, who brought their time and talents to make this event happen as smooth as it did. Committee members, volunteer members, are Brian Duggan, Charlie Mahoney, Dan Sperling, Chairwoman Joanna Hardesty. Livonia employee on the committees were Ted Davis, Linda McCann, Kristen Hutchins, and Dave Varga. Lastly, thank you all for the people who came out to volunteer or just visit the wall. This shows how great Livonia really is. That's what we would honor our fallen our heroes and veterans just the great way. Thank you.
No sneaking out here, Dennis, because we have a little something special for you right now. I'd like to introduce to you Mike Straley. He's the Executive Director of Eyes of Freedom, and he has a presentation to make to Mayor Wright.
Thank you very much. One of our traditions from day one with traveling the Eyes of Freedom all over the nation is getting as many people in front of those men painted. They're traveling the entire country, honoring all of our men and women of service, all of their families. Since day one, we've had everybody that, at every one of our events, we ask that when you see and experience the Eyes of Freedom, that you sign our Eyes of Freedom event flag. And this was such a busy event that we filled this with thousands of signatures on the first 2 days of this Livonia event. And it's our honor, on behalf of all of the men in the portraits, everybody on the behalf of the Eyes of Freedom team, all the family members that are behind those men in the portraits, and, to all of the veterans in the crowd and all of the hundreds that attended over the last 4 days, it's with honor that we leave this behind at every event. So we're proud to leave this Eyes of Freedom flag in the hands of Mayor Wright and the city of Livonia. We really appreciate it, and thank you for bringing the Eyes of Freedom to town. Thank you. This is yours. It's a big 3x5 flag, and we filled it in the first 3 days, so thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, if you can't figure it out, I wasn't expecting this, but this is wonderful. Just wonderful. Thank you all. Thanks for coming in and being part of this with us. Thanks for being part of America.
Mayor Dennis Wright, what a guy. I said it Friday and I'll say it again. The only mayor of any place I've ever lived that I actually bought a snowblower from. Swear to God, it's great. Actually, I worked with his wife, worked at the radio station for quite some time too, if you know Karen. So I knew them both independently of one another and ended up being the mayor. Thanks again to Mayor Wright, also to Mike Straley. That was a beautiful presentation there. And the hardest working man in show business, Dave Varga. Livonia has a permanent Veterans Memorial. You may have seen it at the corner of 5 Mile and Farmington. And on that wall are inscribed the names of Livonia residents who are killed in action, wounded in action, missing in action, or prisoners of war from the Civil War right up to and including the Persian Gulf Wars. So at this point, I will read the names of the Vietnam War servicemen listed on that memorial from Livonia. Joseph Axford, Ronald Bennett, Michael Blondin, Thomas Boyer, John Brown, Michael Bryant, Robert Calderon, John Carlisle, Patrick Connors, Rocky Cooper, Arthur Copeland, Marvin Dix, Craig Dix, Robert Edwards, Gary Elmore, Roger Gordon, Lynn Grace, Gary Grant, Kenneth Horgan, Gerald Holman, Harvey Jacksch, Frederick Kanzik, Daniel Keith, Terrence Kemp, David Kuczynski, Dennis Leahy, William Mayle, Richard Nowry, Robert Olakanen, William Olenek, Timothy O'Neill, Charles Perry, Eliza Pitcock, Alan Roberts, Robert Rogers, Leonard Rose, David Sanford, Dennis Speck, Charles Sperry III, Donald Stanton, Robert Tate, Floyd Taylor, Timothy Tellefson, James Tilley, Dwight Timberlake, David Toby, Daniel Turcott, Richard Wagner, Dale Walker, Robert White, Larry Woodard, Leslie Wright, James Wern, and Jerry Wyman. Thank you, and a round of applause and support for all of these hometown heroes of Livonia. Our guest speaker today is Jeff Hesseker. He is district commander of the American Legion's newly merged 1st and 17th districts for the Detroit metro area. He has served numerous roles in the American Legion. He also serves as the public relations officer for the James M. Hannon Division of the U.S. Naval Sea Cadet Corps in Garden City. Mr. Hesseker is currently employed by Delta Airlines as an aircraft maintenance supervisor. Ladies and gentlemen, please warm welcome for Jeff Hesseker.
Thank you, Chris. Well, first of all, let me say that this is just an amazing event, and the city of Livonia has just done an amazing job for this Vietnam Wall Memorial. You know, there's over 400 volunteers, as Dave was talking about, for the ceremonies and the USO shows. Over 100 of those volunteers themselves were veterans, and the veteran duties also included helping visitors at the parking lot with wheelchairs, helping them get to the wall with the golf carts, locating names on the wall, via computer, and helping them with the rubbings off the walls as a keepsake. Looking back to 1956, then Senator Kennedy supported the Vietnam efforts at the Conference for Vietnam luncheon held at the Hotel Willard in Washington, D.C. His speech was America's Stake in Vietnam. Senator Kennedy lays out a series of points of support for the Vietnam. Vietnam represents the proving ground for democracy in Asia. However, we may choose to ignore it or depreciate it, the rising prestige and influence of Communist China in Asia are unchallengeable facts. Vietnam represents alternative to communist dictatorship. He goes on to say that if this democratic experiment fails, and if some 1 million refugees have fled totalitarianism from the north, only to find neither freedom nor security in the south, then weakness, not strength, will characterize the meaning of democracy in the minds of still more Asians. But when President Kennedy took office in 1961, the initial problem in Southeast Asia was Laos. The U.S. agreed to a neutral Laos, and this agreement was negotiated in Geneva. Soon, however, it became apparent that the most serious problem in Vietnam was the communist attacks in South Vietnam. Kennedy was reluctant to commit U.S. forces to Vietnam, but he was even more reluctant for it to fall in communist hands. As early as 1963, there were some 16,000 U.S. advisors in Vietnam. Kennedy seemed more reluctant and skeptical of the U.S. ability to obtain the objective in Vietnam and wanted to begin planning a withdrawal. This withdrawal would come only after the November '64 elections, for he feared political fallout from a quick withdrawal. The day he left for Texas, November 21st, 1963, President Kennedy told Senator Mike Manson in early 1964, he wanted to organize an in-depth study and let's look at all of our options in Vietnam. But this was not to be, and history took a much different course. Both Presidents Johnson and Nixon carried on with the war effort in Vietnam, each of them wanting to win. Active combat units were now introduced in 1965. By 1969, more than 536,000 U.S. military personnel were stationed in Vietnam. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union and China poured weapons, supplies, advisors into the north, which in turn provided support, political direction, and regular combat troops for the campaign in the south. And I don't mind telling you, among my personal circle of friends, we refer to the war as WWNAM. By the end of the war in by the end of 1966, the U.S. Air Force had dropped more bombs on North Vietnam than were dropped on Japan during World War II. Even more that had been dropped during the entire Korean War. But this came at a high cost. Also, by the end of 1966, the United States had lost almost 500 aircraft, and hundreds of air crew were either killed or being held prisoners of war. In total, the United States military lost in Vietnam almost 10,000 aircraft, helicopters, and UAVs. There were a total of 269 American and enemy air-to-air combat engagements over Vietnam. 201 of these engagements were between the United States Air Force and the North Vietnamese Air Force, while 68 of these engagements were the U.S. Navy's air battles with the North Vietnamese. The U.S. Navy had a wide range of missions in the Vietnam War. In the air, the Navy was a key partner with the U.S. Air Force in Rolling Thunder and linebacker air campaigns against North Vietnam, along with their carrier-based operations in Laos and Cambodia. Navy surface vessels steamed up and down the coast of both North and South Vietnam, raining shells on a variety of targets in support of the ground troops. On the coast, the Navy developed a highly effective blockade with its swift boats to prevent resupply of enemy forces by sea, engaged in naval gunfire support missions, supporting Navy SEAL teams, and providing amphibious support for the Marines, protected by the famed Seawolf Huey gunships in the Mekong Delta, among the most heavily armed Hueys in Vietnam. And by the way, they were also the most decorated naval unit in history. The United States Marine Corps served in such battles as the Battle of Hue, the Battle of Khe Sanh in 1968. Individuals from the USMC generally operated in the North I Corps regions of South Vietnam. While they were there, they constantly engaged in guerrilla warfare against the Viet Cong, along with intermittent conventional warfare against the North Vietnamese Army. Portions of the Corps were responsible for less-known Combined Action Program, the CAP. They implemented unconventional techniques for counterinsurgency and worked as military advisors. Vietnam was the longest war for the Marines, for by its end, 13,091 Marines had been killed in action. 51,392 had been wounded, and 57 medals of honor were awarded. Due to these policies concerning rotations at that time, more Marines were deployed during the Vietnam War than were deployed in World War II, WWNAM. The U.S. Army had some 30 divisions and 5 brigades that served in Vietnam. While U.S. forces had been stationed in South Vietnam since 1959, doing intelligence and advising and training roles, they were not deployed in large numbers until 1965. The enemy was hard to identify. The war was not fought between conventional army forces. The Viet Cong blended in with the native population and struck by ambush, often at night. Major battles included the Battle of La Drang, the Tet Offensive, in which the Army turned a large-scale attack by Communist forces into a massive defeat for the Viet Cong on the battlefield. The Battle of Hamburger Hill with the 101st Airborne Division with troops of the 9th Marine Regiment and the 5th Cavalry. The Battle of Fire Support Base Ripcord, again, the 101st Airborne Division, and the Easter Offensive. On a tactical level, American soldiers and the U.S. military as a whole did not lose a sizable battle. Over 38,000 U.S. Army soldiers were killed during the entire war. Now, if you're a visual mathematician, you just realized that between the Marines and the U.S. Army, that accounts for over 51,000 names. The U.S. Coast Guard played a vital role in the Vietnam War, but the service's combat operations in Southeast Asia remains unknown to most Americans. In early '67, the Navy requested the Coast Guard provide 5 endurance cutters for duty. Wartime statistics show that Coast Guard cutters boarded 250,000 junks and sampans and participated in 6,000 naval gunfire support missions. Of the 56 cutters that served in Vietnam, 30 of them were turned over to South Vietnam and trained by Coast Guardsmen. Excuse me. In all, 8,000 Coast Guardsmen had served in Vietnam. The cost and casualties of the growing war proved to be too much for the United States to bear. U.S. combat troops were being withdrawn by 1973. In 1975, South Vietnam fell to a full-scale invasion from the north. Not until 1995 did Vietnam release its official estimate of war dead. As many as 2 million civilians on both sides and some 1.1 million North Vietnamese and Viet Cong fighters had died. The U.S. military estimates that between 200 and 250,000 South Vietnamese soldiers had died in the war. Engraved on this wall are the 58,319 of our men and women. You've probably noticed the empty POW chairs sitting before me on the stage. Please let me explain. Resolution 288, adopted by the 67th American Legion National Convention, calls for designating a POW MIA chair at all official meetings of the American Legion. A physical symbol of the thousands of American POWs still unaccounted for in all wars and conflicts involving the United States of America. This is a reminder to all of us to spare no effort to secure the release of any American prisoners from captivity, the repatriation of the remains of those who died bravely in the defense of liberty, and a full accounting for all of those missing. Let us rededicate ourselves to this vital endeavor. To all our Vietnam War veterans and to all our veterans, thank you for your service to this grateful nation. Thank you.
A little much needed background. Thank you very much, Jeff. Time for a little more music. This time it's from Brett Lee, a local musician who started on his musical journey in a small Southern Baptist gospel church. And check this out. He was reciting the Pledge of Allegiance for the congregation by the tender age of 2 years old, and began singing hymns shortly thereafter. His exposure to several other genres while he was a young boy fueled his love for music, which was developed as he grew. Welcome to the stage, Brett Lee.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today and showing your respects and honoring these heroes. They certainly deserve it. If tomorrow all the things were gone I worked for all my life, and I had to start again, just my children and my wife. Oh, I thank my God above to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the man who died, gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you, defender still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Well, from the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, oh, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, from New York to LA, there's pride in every American heart. It's time to stand up and say, forget the man who died and gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Oh yeah, I'm proud to be an American. Well, at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the man who died and gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you, defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. All right, little Lee Greenwood. Thank you very much. Grammy Award winner Lee Greenwood. I'm going to try to make this next one as PG as I can. Or maybe it's PC, I don't know. Either one. American girls and American guys will always stand up and salute. We'll always recognize when we see your glory flying. There's a lot of men dead, so we can sleep at peace at night when we lay down our head. My daddy served in the army, where lost his right eye, but he flew a flag out in our yard. Till the day that he died, he wanted my mother, my brother, my sister, and me to grow up and live happy in the land of the free. Now this nation that I love is falling under attack. A mighty sucker punch came flying from somewhere in the back. As soon as we could see clearly through our big black eye, man, we lit up your world like the 4th of July. Then Uncle Sam put his name at the top of his list, and the Statue of Liberty started shaking a fist, and the eagle will fly, and it's gonna be hell when you hear Mother Freedom start ringing her bell, and it'll feel like the whole wide world is raining down on you. Yeah, that's brought to you courtesy of the red, white, and blue. Oh, justice will be served and the battle will rage. This big dog will fight when you rattle his cage. You'll be sorry that you messed with the US of A. 'Cause we'll put a boot in your ass. That's the American way. Mr. Toby Keith, thank you guys so much. God bless America. God bless our vets and our troops. Thank you. Pardon? Oh, a little tap. Just to make sure. Okay, see it? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Brett Lee. Let's compliment him on that little doohickey that clipped on there, and that was pretty cool, that thing. High tech, man. High tech in Livonia. Next, I'd like to ask to the stage Joanna Hardesty. This is interesting. I emceed a thing on Thursday night, and I came by Friday, and I saw Joanna. I came here Friday, I just in the middle of my shift, and to go through, and I saw Joanna. Last night at the USO show, Joanna was there, and she's here again tonight. She's unbelievable. She's the inspiring volunteer leader of the Moving Wall Committee here in Livonia that helped put the entire weekend together. Her history in helping put on Moving Wall events has really made this the great event that we've all enjoyed. Joanna is the daughter, wife, and mother of U.S. military veterans, and she will present the Soldier's Prayer. Please give a big warm welcome to Joanna Hardesty.
And the sister of a Vietnam vet. A soldier's prayer. When I am called to serve, dear Lord, wherever war may be, give me courage to fight the battles my country may ask of me. Grace me with your presence and know that I love you. While fighting the enemy, my country needs me too. Help me protect my comrades as you expect me to, and keep me in your loving hands while I do what I must do. I want to do my duty and to give the best in me, to do what I've been called to do and protect our liberty. And if, according to your will, I must give up my life, please bless with your protecting hand my children and my wife. God bless you.
God bless you, Joanna, for your hard work and the sacrifices you've had to make. Remember earlier I mentioned that Father Jim had something special he'd like to do for you, and he's back. Father Jim is the pastor of St. Edith's Church. Father Jim.
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. It's you must go, and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. But when you come and all the flowers are dying, if I am dead, and dead I well may be, you'll come and find the place where I am lying, and kneel and say an Ave there for me. And I shall hear, though soft, you tread above me, and o'er my grave will warmer, sweeter be. For you will bend and tell me that you love me, and I shall sleep in peace until you come up for me.
Kristen over here is all sideways after that. That was beautiful. Did not see that coming. Not see it coming. Redheaded Catholic priest named Jim McNulty, and I didn't see it coming. Unbelievable. Stupid. All right. Wow. All right. Before we have our rifle salute, we have the honor of hearing bagpiper Dan Haller from the Livonia Fire and Rescue. Firefighter Dan Haller. Where are you, Dan? Do you see him? Whenever you're ready, come on over if you want. Dan Haller, ladies and gentlemen. We have a last-minute ad to the program, and those of you that happened to see the USO show last night heard an incredibly poignant poem that was written by the gentleman I'm about to introduce here, Irvin Tompkins. He served in the 101st Airborne in Vietnam from 1968 to 1970, and, well, let's just, you just need to hear him. Irvin, come on up. It was beautiful.
It took me 50 years to get here, but God bless, I made it. When I came home from Vietnam, I couldn't talk about it because people called me a child killer, called me a junkie, called me dopehead. They didn't want to hear anything I had to say. But that's not what I felt a Vietnam veteran was. So the name of my poem is Dignify the Vietnam War. Dignify the Vietnam War, that's a hell of a statement that I make. America, what do I mean when I say dignify the war? I'm a Vietnam veteran. I walk, I talk, I have fantasies and dreams just like you. But even more so than you, I have the vibrations and the pain of 58,000 men trapped inside my soul. What am I to you and who are they to me is the question I'd like to put forth to you today. I said Vietnam, home of the dead, land of misery, where 58,000 American soldiers gave their lives in the name of liberty. $15,000 reward for the souls of all dead GIs. Mothers and daughters don't cry no tears for your husbands and sons were only meant to live 18 through 50 years. People talk about the bloodshed and some people talk about the pain. People don't understand that Vietnam gave me the license. That kind of strange. Now don't talk about giving me liberty, and please don't talk about death. I just want to pick up the pieces of my life, the pieces that were left. Patrick Henry said, give me liberty, America, or give me death. General MacArthur said, I shall return. But from the Vietnam conflict, no famous words were ever learned. Yes, America, I'm a Vietnam veteran. And I went when my turn came. On my shoulders I carried the weight, in my heart I still carry the pain. I come before you now not with my weapon, but with tears in my eyes. Because 58,000 American soldiers gave their lives and no one seemed to have any tears to cry. There were sagas and tales of World War I. Glorious headlines accompanied World War II. You supported the Korean conflict and the colors of red, white, and blue. Well, what I say next, America, may surprise you, but I swear to God that every word is true. That in Vietnam, we also carried a flag. Its colors were red, its colors were white, its colors were blue. Now, I feel that we fought for freedom, though I'm sure quite a few of you out there won't agree. But I believe deep down in my heart that 58,000 men died for what they thought was liberty. Now, I'm not asking for your forgiveness, America. And no, America, no, I'm not here begging sympathy. I'm simply saying that the Vietnam veteran did his job and he earned his dignity. My country, 'tis to me, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing, land where my father died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountain side. Oh Lord, let freedom ring. And in the annals of history, when it comes time to analyze the Vietnam War, I want you to know that the Vietnam veteran, he fought courageously, he fought bravely, he fought with love and endurance. He did not wave the flag in Vietnam, he carried the flag in Vietnam for our freedom. So America, I can only say, dignify the Vietnam War. God bless.
Unbelievable, eh? Before we finish today, let me say what an honor it has been to have been a part of this event, both personally on my behalf, but also all the volunteers who have made this event work, including the people who have read each and every one of the 58,319 names on this wall throughout all hours of the day and night. What a great way to say welcome home to all our veterans by honoring their fallen brethren. The inspiring words we've heard this weekend from so many wonderful speakers provide us sustenance in this world that we live in today. As one of our guest speakers pointed out the other night, this is a great dose of vitamin P, patriotism. Now I'd like to ask American Legion Post 32 back to perform. By the way, they've stood 24-hour watch here the entire duration of this, and they're back now to perform the rifle salute and taps. It's been my pleasure to do this for you guys tonight, and I appreciate it. And please be aware there will be loud rifle volleys, so you're not startled.
Guard, hit. Port, arse. Hit the half step. Forward, march. Color bright. Hit. Ready. Aim. left.